Hi, welcome to the Pursuit of Truth. The question I'm going to pose now is, do you and me, you and I, do we exist? Now, I'm not talking about simulation theory or anything like that. I'm asking you, do we exist? Now, your gut reaction, your first response is going to be, yes, of course we exist. And this is part of, what I'm trying to say, this bigger picture of flat earth, conspiracy theories, racism, the way we live, the system, the government, and all that kind of truth and lies and that kind of thing. We instantly have an answer for something without even thinking about it. That's a little bit of a problem, really, with humans. But this is what I really mean by do we exist? Because obviously, yes, I know I exist. If I pinch myself, I'm alive, yeah? I was born. But what I'm trying to say is, me, or you, if I was in a, like Tarzan, and I've mentioned this before, if I was dropped in the middle of a forest and there were no humans around, I wouldn't be me. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I wouldn't be this person now speaking to you because no one would have taught me how to speak English. No one would have taught me how to think. No one would have, shown me television. I have been developed over years by people, by teachers, by my parents, by my sister, by my friends, by television, by radio, by books, by magazines. All of this, by my experiences, good and bad, relationships, good and bad, everything that's happened to me has made me me. I am not the same me that I used to be. If you think about it, when you were younger, I know I'm a different person as I was then. When I was young, I was very scared of everything. I used to, in my head, I used to think about all the conversations I would say because I couldn't say anything. Yeah, I could do this kind of thing. I could make radio programs with my sister, but actual real people outside, I found it very difficult to communicate. And I still do to a certain extent. But the me then and the me now is completely different. So I've been evolving through all this time. And the me in the future, if there is one, how will I be then? Will I be completely different? Have different kinds of thoughts replaced by new experiences and new ideas. So, but getting back to the bit of me in the forest, if I was left in the forest for 40 years and then I met me now, if there was a way of, a parallel universe of us meeting each other, we'd be completely different. But yet we're the same person. Are we? So what makes us a person? Does making us a person, what makes us? Is it our experiences? Is it the things we're taught? How to speak? How to think? What to think? To a certain degree. So is it really me? Am I an imposter? But do you know what I'm trying to say? I know it seems so stupid, but also it just struck me now that concept of what makes me or you or me. Because it's the same as if you're born in a different country. If you're born in a different country, you're taught different things, and you're taught different ways. You have a different language. You are a different person. But I mean, that's slightly different from the idea of like the parallel me, as it were. But what I'm trying to sort of suggest is about this whole system that we live in, the time that we live in now, where we have government, where we have countries dividing us, where we have different ethnicities that have been made up to divide us, where we have all these different things to divide us. And we, to travel, you have to have a passport, you have to get a visa, to take water or electricity or anything that's come from this earth, you have to pay somebody else. All these things, you have to go to work. Most of us spend, how many years? Is it 60 years? 60? If you start at, say, 20, you finish, 70? What's that? 50 years? 50 odd plus years. You spend of your life, you give away that most important part, the most energy efficient part of your life, you give away to work. Because yes, you can do other things, but a majority of your time and energy is is keeping this system of work. Whatever you're doing, you're keeping that going. It just makes me wonder whether we're all a lie. When I'm talking about all these, the world we live in is like a game of Monopoly, as it were. We're born into it, we have these rules and we have to follow, and that's part of the instructions, as it were. If you don't get a job, unless you can get benefits, you live out on the street. You have to do certain things, even though it's presented to you as if you have free choices, if you have freedom. You have to do certain things to play their game, as it were. You have to roll the dice, to be able to participate in the life and get all the things that have been given by God or whoever freely to us all, that we've partitioned off and decided that you have to do this to get this. And we know that it's all made up. It's all a man-made concept. If you go through different times of history, you'll find there were different ways of how we used to live. Feudal and all those types of different ways we used to live. And in the future, I'm sure we'll live by a different system, hopefully a better one, where it's not all about possession and selfishness and money. But then it comes down to it, we know that's all a lie, but what about ourselves? Are we actually lying to ourselves, pretending that we're something that we're not? Do you know what I'm trying to say? Or am I, because I'm saying if I was put in a forest, I wouldn't be the same person now? Is that a bit unfair? Because through time, as a species, we've evolved, as it were. We've come up with language to be able to communicate with each other. If I was that baby and then I met another, I grew up and I met another child out in the woods, and then we had children, through time, would they eventually then come up with the same, like wanting to communicate, wanting to make fires, make house, make businesses, make money, and then come up with the same system all over again? I suppose if that was the case, then we are as who we are. But I'm just wondering, how do we know which is really us? How do I know which is really me? The me that I think is me, is it actually me, or is it a construct of all these other things that I've learned over time? Because when you're a baby, you don't know anything. You're taught. Yeah, you know certain things, like you know how to breathe. I assume babies eventually, they know how to walk, they know how to move around. They do that by themselves. They know how to eat, as it were, like breastfeeding, bottle and all that kind of stuff. But their actual, the stuff up here, the stuff that we teach them by speaking to them, by teaching them nursery rhymes, by the television stuff that we play and the computer stuff that we play in front of them to educate them, the schools and all that kind of stuff, that when they start doing that, they become them, as it were. They become that person. They became, they have that communication. They have the ability to say what they're thinking. But has all of that been taught? Has it all been trained? If you did it, well, yeah, because it is. Because if you go to a different country, they will speak a different language, and they have a different culture. So it has been almost forced upon them, as it were. Are we all prisoners of our own self? I know this sounds completely crazy, and you probably think but just think about that, what I just said, that are we all prisoners of ourselves? Or, because, like I'm saying, if I was born here, I speak English, I know like British things and etc. If I was born in China, I'd be completely different, but I am the same person. It's just what time and what place I was in that's made me me. So after I've gone through all these different things of lies and truth and have a sense, back to me as the individual is the only thing that who I experience everything through. Have I actually been lying to myself, thinking that I am me when I'm not really? I'm artificial, as it were. Anyway, that's one to think about. Take care, take it easy, God bless, and peace.